Tren de Aragua, a growing transnational criminal threat. Tren de Aragua, initially rooted in Venezuela's notorious Tocorón prison in the state of Aragua, has rapidly developed into one of the most potent transnational criminal organizations in Latin America. With an estimated membership exceeding 5,000 individuals, this highly organized and violent group has strategically expanded its operations, penetrating not only neighboring countries in Latin America, but also extending its influence as far as Europe and the United States. This report delves into the organization's evolution, highlighting its leadership structure, sophisticated expansion tactics, diversified criminal activities, and its alarming capacity to adapt to new environments. Tren de Aragua has skillfully exploited weaknesses in national law enforcement frameworks and the instability in Venezuela to solidify its influence across borders. The report also addresses the significant challenges faced by law enforcement agencies in mitigating this growing threat, as well as the implications for regional security, migration patterns, and international cooperation. Transnational criminal organizations, TCOs, represent some of the most persistent and dangerous threats to global security, economic stability, and governance. Among these emerging threats, Tren de Aragua has distinguished itself through its rapid evolution from a small, localized group tied to railway construction in Venezuela into a sprawling criminal empire. What began as a modest organization has grown into one of Venezuela's most powerful and dangerous criminal entities, exerting influence both within and beyond the country's borders. This group's expansion is particularly concerning due to its ability to capitalize on the socio-political crises in Venezuela and the wider region. Tren de Aragua has skillfully exploited the vulnerabilities created by migration crises, insufficient law enforcement capacity, and socio-economic instability to build a robust and diversified criminal network. Its influence extends into human trafficking, drug smuggling, extortion, and other illicit activities that pose severe challenges to national and international security frameworks. This report offers an in-depth exploration of the Tren de Aragua's operational structure, tactics, and transnational expansion strategies, shedding light on how it has grown to threaten not just Venezuela, but the broader Latin American region and beyond. The findings underscore the urgent need for coordinated international responses to curb the influence of this growing criminal powerhouse, which thrives on instability and the gaps in global law enforcement. Origins and evolution. Tren de Aragua traces its roots back to the early 2010s within the notoriously lawless environment of Tocorón prison in Aragua, Venezuela. Initially formed by a group of railway construction workers, the organization quickly transformed from a loosely connected group into a powerful and coordinated criminal syndicate. Tocorón prison, notorious for its lack of state control and deeply ingrained corruption, provided fertile ground for Tren de Aragua's rapid expansion. Within this chaotic setting, the gang was able to consolidate its power by exploiting the systemic corruption, creating an internal hierarchy, and effectively running criminal operations from within the prison walls. By 2013, the group had adopted the name Tren de Aragua, a reflection of its newfound identity and burgeoning influence. The name, symbolic of both its origins in railway construction and its increasing criminal organization, signified a shift in its ambitions, from local dominance to broader regional influence. Between 2013 and 2015, the gang's operations began to expand beyond Tocorón, leveraging the instability and dysfunction in Venezuela's penal system to organize illicit activities with minimal interference from authorities. Tren de Aragua's evolution during this period was marked by its ability to exploit weaknesses in the Venezuelan state, which was grappling with severe economic, political, and social crises. The gang capitalized on these vulnerabilities, using its prison base as a command center for coordinating various criminal enterprises, including extortion, kidnapping, drug trafficking, and human smuggling. With prison officials either complicit or powerless, the organization grew with impunity, consolidating its leadership and expanding its reach both inside and outside Venezuela. The gang's evolution into a transnational criminal organization was accelerated by the country's collapse, allowing it to infiltrate neighboring countries and establish cross-border networks. What began as a prison-based gang soon morphed into one of the most formidable criminal enterprises in Latin America, capable of exploiting the socioeconomic fragility not only of Venezuela, but also of other nations across the region. Leadership and structure. Leader Héctor Rustenford Guerrero Flores, alias Niño Guerrero, serves as the undisputed leader of Tren de Aragua, orchestrating its vast criminal network with remarkable precision. Despite being incarcerated, Guerrero's control over the organization remains unchallenged, highlighting both his influence and the vulnerabilities within Venezuela's penal system. His ability to command from within Tocorón prison exemplifies how deeply embedded corruption allows criminal leaders to thrive behind bars, running sophisticated operations with little interference. Membership. Tren de Aragua is believed to have an estimated membership of over 5,000 individuals, making it one of the largest and most organized gangs in Venezuela. Its reach extends far beyond the country's borders, with operatives and affiliates dispersed throughout Latin America, and increasingly in Europe and North America. This broad membership base allows the gang to maintain a presence in various countries, where they engage in a wide range of illicit activities, from drug trafficking to human smuggling. Hierarchical structure. The gang operates under a highly centralized leadership model, with Guerrero at the top of a tightly controlled hierarchy. While the organization is top-down in terms of leadership, it also employs a flexible, networked approach to manage its operations across borders. Regional cells are granted operational autonomy to carry out specific tasks, whether it's overseeing drug distribution in Colombia, managing human trafficking routes in Peru, or extortion schemes in Chile, but they remain loyal to the central leadership. Key lieutenants within the organization are responsible for overseeing various criminal enterprises, ensuring coordination across their decentralized networks. These cells operate in conjunction with each other, yet maintain enough independence to minimize the impact of law enforcement crackdowns on any single node of the network. This compartmentalized structure makes Tren de Aragua remarkably resilient to disruption, as the gang can rapidly adapt and redirect operations when individual cells are compromised. Additionally, the gang has diversified its recruitment strategies, drawing in members from various socioeconomic backgrounds, including former soldiers, corrupt officials, and members of disenfranchised communities, all of whom contribute to the organization's strength. The leadership's strategic use of both coercion and incentives ensures loyalty, while its ruthless enforcement of internal discipline deters defection and betrayal. Guerrero's control over Tren de Aragua exemplifies how deeply organized crime groups can exploit weak governance and systemic corruption. His ability to manage such a vast and complex operation from within prison suggests a well-organized chain of command and a deep reservoir of trusted lieutenants capable of executing his directives across international borders. Expansion into South America and beyond. Tren de Aragua has effectively leveraged the Venezuelan refugee crisis, using the mass migration of displaced Venezuelans as a strategic cover for its criminal expansion into South America and beyond. The gang's ability to exploit humanitarian corridors and migration routes has allowed it to expand its network across multiple countries, often embedding itself within immigrant communities to avoid detection. Migration routes. Tren de Aragua members pose as asylum seekers, taking advantage of the porous borders and overwhelmed immigration systems in neighboring countries. By blending in with genuine refugees fleeing Venezuela's economic and political crises, gang members are able to infiltrate new territories under the guise of seeking asylum. This tactic has proven highly effective, as it allows them to enter countries undetected, establish footholds, and recruit from vulnerable refugee populations. Countries affected. The gang has established a significant presence in Colombia, Brazil, Peru, Chile, and has made notable inroads into the United States. In these countries, Tren de Aragua has integrated into the local underworld, exploiting existing black markets and corrupt local officials. In Colombia and Brazil, they have been linked to drug trafficking and extortion, while in Chile and Peru, they are heavily involved in human trafficking and migrant exploitation. Their expansion into the U.S. marks a significant escalation in the group's international ambitions, where they have been connected to a range of criminal activities, from drug smuggling to violent crime. Exploitation of vulnerabilities. Tren de Aragua specifically targets immigrant communities, leveraging their precarious legal and economic statuses to coerce individuals into participating in their operations. Many refugees lack legal protections or social safety nets, making them ideal targets for recruitment, extortion, and human trafficking. The gang's infiltration into these vulnerable populations allows them to operate with relative impunity, as victims are often too afraid to report criminal activity due to fear of deportation or retaliation. Infiltration into the United States. Tren de Aragua's expansion into the United States represents a critical and emerging threat to domestic security. The gang's ability to penetrate U.S. borders using methods similar to those employed in South America underscores its growing transnational capabilities and poses new challenges for law enforcement agencies. Method of entry. Many Tren de Aragua members have entered the U.S. illegally, often posing as asylum seekers. U.S. immigration authorities, already overwhelmed by the volume of migrants at the southern border, have struggled to differentiate between genuine asylum seekers and criminal elements like Tren de Aragua members. The gang's members are known to use forged documents or exploit legal loopholes, making it difficult for authorities to intercept them at the border. States affected: Texas. Significant activities have been reported in El Paso and Houston, two key entry points for migrants into the U.S. Tren de Aragua has been involved in drug trafficking and human smuggling operations in these areas. Additionally, recruitment efforts have been noted in local middle schools, indicating the gang's focus on building a new generation of operatives within U.S. borders. New York. Tren de Aragua has been linked to violent crime, including shootings and forced prostitution, particularly in immigrant-heavy neighborhoods. The gang's presence in New York City underscores its ability to integrate into large urban areas where law enforcement resources are stretched thin. Colorado. Active in both Denver and Aurora, Tren de Aragua has become a significant player in local drug trafficking rings. Their involvement in the region's growing narcotics trade suggests that the gang is looking to capitalize on the increasing demand for drugs, especially in cities where drug-related crime is on the rise. Illinois. In the Chicago suburbs, law enforcement agencies have reported a growing presence of Tren de Aragua, with connections to extortion and drug trafficking activities. Chicago's strategic location as a transportation hub makes it an attractive base for the gang's U.S. operations. Law enforcement response. To date, U.S. law enforcement agencies have launched over 100 investigations tied to Tren de Aragua's operations. This highlights the gang's widespread influence and the complexity of dismantling its networks. The investigations span multiple jurisdictions and involve a wide array of crimes, including drug trafficking, human trafficking, racketeering, and organized violence. Federal agencies, including the FBI and Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, are collaborating with local law enforcement to develop more comprehensive strategies for countering this evolving threat. Criminal activities. Tren de Aragua's criminal portfolio is both diverse and far-reaching, allowing the organization to finance its operations and extend its influence across multiple countries. The gang's ability to engage in various illicit enterprises simultaneously has made it one of the most dangerous transnational criminal organizations in the Western Hemisphere. Human trafficking. One of the most heinous aspects of Tren de Aragua's operations is its control over sex trafficking rings. The gang specifically targets vulnerable immigrant women, often luring them with false promises of legitimate employment before coercing them into prostitution. In particular, they have focused on trafficking Venezuelan women who fled their country's economic collapse, taking advantage of their precarious legal status and lack of protection. The gang's trafficking networks extend across South America and have even reached into the United States, where trafficked women are forced into prostitution rings in major cities. Drug trafficking. Tren de Aragua is heavily involved in the production, smuggling, and distribution of illicit drugs, including cocaine and MDMA. The gang leverages its control over migration routes and its relationships with other criminal organizations to transport narcotics across borders. In countries like Colombia and Brazil, Tren de Aragua works closely with local drug cartels to manage drug shipments. Their operations have also penetrated the U.S., where they are linked to regional distribution networks, fueling the opioid crisis and contributing to the rise in drug-related violence. Violent crimes. The gang is notorious for its use of extreme violence to maintain control over its territories and eliminate rivals. Tren de Aragua has been linked to numerous murders, both within Venezuela and across Latin America, as well as targeted assaults on law enforcement officers who attempt to disrupt their activities. Extortion is another hallmark of their operations, with the gang frequently targeting businesses and individuals for protection payments. Failure to comply is often met with brutal consequences, including kidnappings and executions. Other activities. Tren de Aragua is also involved in a range of other illicit enterprises, including kidnapping for ransom, illegal mining, particularly in Venezuela's gold-rich regions, and extensive money laundering schemes that allow them to integrate the proceeds of their crimes into the legitimate economy. The gang's involvement in illegal mining is particularly significant as it has been linked to environmental destruction and violent territorial disputes in Venezuela's Orinoco mining arc. These activities not only finance the gang's operations and expansion, but also destabilize the communities they operate in, contributing to the erosion of public safety, economic stability, and governance. Law enforcement challenges. Efforts to combat Tren de Aragua's transnational operations are complicated by several significant challenges. Identification issues. One of the primary hurdles for law enforcement agencies is the difficulty in identifying Tren de Aragua members. Unlike some other gangs, members often lack distinctive identifiers such as gang colors or standardized tattoos. They blend into immigrant populations, making it difficult for law enforcement to distinguish them from legitimate asylum seekers or migrants. Common tattoos. While some members of Tren de Aragua use tattoos to signify their affiliation, the widespread prevalence of tattoos in South American culture complicates the use of body markings for identification. This makes it challenging for law enforcement to definitively link individuals to the gang based on visual identifiers alone. Lack of cooperation from Venezuelan authorities. A major obstacle in combating Tren de Aragua is the lack of cooperation from Venezuelan authorities. The gang's origins within Venezuela's deeply corrupt prison system and its strong ties to local officials mean that the government often turns a blind eye to its activities. International law enforcement agencies have found it difficult to gather reliable intelligence or secure extraditions from Venezuela's state, severely hindering their ability to dismantle the organization's leadership. This lack of coordination between Venezuela and international agencies has allowed Tren de Aragua to operate with relative impunity, extending its reach across borders without fear of meaningful retaliation. U.S. government response. Recognizing the growing threat posed by Tren de Aragua, the U.S. government has taken significant steps to curb the gang's influence and prevent further infiltration into American territory. Designation as a transnational criminal organization, TCO. In July 2024, Tren de Aragua was officially designated as a transnational criminal organization, TCO, a move that opens the door for stronger sanctions, asset freezes, and enhanced law enforcement action against its members and affiliates. This designation places Tren de Aragua on par with other notorious criminal organizations, such as MS-13 and the Sinaloa cartel, signaling the seriousness of the threat they pose. Bounties. The U.S. government has issued a reward of $12 million for information leading to the arrest of key leaders within Tren de Aragua, including Héctor Guerrero Flores, also known as Niño Guerrero. This financial incentive aims to encourage individuals with insider knowledge to come forward, potentially helping law enforcement disrupt the gang's leadership and organizational structure. Policy measures. In response to the growing threat, the U.S. has implemented a range of policy measures aimed at tightening border security and enhancing interagency cooperation. Increased surveillance, improved vetting procedures for asylum seekers, and closer collaboration between federal and local law enforcement agencies are key components of this strategy. Additionally, the U.S. has expanded its collaboration with Latin American governments to disrupt Tren de Aragua's operations in the Western Hemisphere, although challenges remain due to varying levels of commitment and capability among regional partners. Conclusion: Tren de Aragua's transformation from a prison-based gang into a sprawling transnational criminal organization highlights the evolving nature of organized crime in the 21st century. What began within the confines of Venezuela's notoriously corrupt penal system has now metastasized into a cross-border operation that exploits migration crises, socio-political instability, and the vulnerabilities of under-resourced law enforcement agencies. The gang's ability to infiltrate countries, engage in diversified criminal activities, and leverage human suffering for profit underscores the complexity of the modern criminal landscape. The adaptability and resilience of Tren de Aragua pose serious challenges to national and international security frameworks. Its use of migration routes to mask illegal entry, coupled with its involvement in drug trafficking, human exploitation, and violent crime, makes it a particularly insidious threat. Countering this organization will require not only a coordinated law enforcement response, but also proactive measures that address the underlying conditions that allow such groups to thrive. Comprehensive, multifaceted strategies involving enhanced international cooperation, bolstered law enforcement capabilities, and active community engagement are essential to mitigating the threat posed by Tren de Aragua. Without these interventions, the gang will continue to expand, destabilizing communities and threatening the security of nations across the Western Hemisphere. Recommendations: enhanced international collaboration. Given Tren de Aragua's extensive transnational reach, it is critical to foster stronger partnerships between U.S. and Latin American law enforcement agencies. Joint task forces, shared intelligence databases, and coordinated operations will be key in dismantling the gang's networks across borders. Strengthening diplomatic ties and mutual legal assistance agreements between countries is also essential to ensure seamless cross-border investigations and extradition processes. Targeted intelligence operations. Investing in more advanced intelligence gathering capabilities is crucial for identifying and disrupting the gang's leadership and operational networks. Signals intelligence, SIGINT, human intelligence, HUMINT, and surveillance operations must be employed to monitor communications, infiltrate cells, and track the movement of key operatives. Additionally, employing big data analytics to track financial flows, recruitment patterns, and criminal trends will provide actionable insights to law enforcement agencies. Community outreach programs. Tren de Aragua's recruitment of youth and exploitation of immigrant communities can be mitigated through well-targeted community outreach programs. Initiatives that focus on providing education, employment opportunities, and social services to vulnerable populations, particularly in immigrant-heavy neighborhoods, are essential. Early intervention programs aimed at preventing youth recruitment and supporting at-risk families will help disrupt the gang's ability to draw new members into its criminal enterprises. Legal reforms. Strengthening legal frameworks to facilitate the prosecution of transnational criminal activities is a necessary step in combating Tren de Aragua. Reform should include enhanced penalties for human trafficking, drug smuggling, and other forms of organized crime. Additionally, improving laws around asset forfeiture, witness protection, and international extradition will equip law enforcement with the tools needed to dismantle the gang's financial and operational structures. Special attention should be paid to closing legal loopholes that allow gang members to evade justice through forged asylum claims or corruption within local legal systems. Statistical summary. Estimated membership. Tren de Aragua boasts an estimated membership of over 5,000 individuals. This membership includes a mix of core members based in Venezuela, regional affiliates in South America, and emerging cells in the United States and Europe. U.S. investigations. Over 100 active cases are currently being pursued by U.S. law enforcement agencies, highlighting the widespread impact of Tren de Aragua's activities on American soil. These investigations cover a range of offenses, from drug trafficking to human trafficking and violent crime. Affected states. Tren de Aragua's presence has been reported in key U.S. states, including Texas, New York, Colorado, and Illinois. These states have become focal points for the gang's criminal activities, particularly in immigrant-heavy communities where the gang exploits vulnerabilities in local populations. Financial incentives. The U.S. government has issued a $12 million bounty for information leading to the capture of Tren de Aragua's key leaders, including Héctor Niño Guerrero. This financial reward reflects the high priority placed on dismantling the gang's leadership and disrupting its international networks.